the first session takes a little bit longer as we sort through questions. There were a lot of very good questions. We can't ask them all. And there was a lot of redundancy about several topics. And we want the two candidates in the control of time to answer your questions. These will all be questions that you've submitted tonight. And, you get 80 questions. A lot of them are alike, but we've gone through and we'll have 25 questions, maybe time to answer that many. But I want to remind you, or actually inform you, that this is controlled by time. One candidate answers 22 questions in the 50 minutes. That's 5-0. Fine. And if the other candidate answers 24, that's fine, because it's controlled by time there. We will be asking you at the conclusion of the first candidate's remarks to please fill out the form that the board will be made available, copied for the board. Every board member will have the opportunity to read your impressions of the two candidates tonight before they make a decision. So with that, first of all, it's a pleasure having you here. I'm glad to see the room filling. I'm Dr. Bill Newman. I'm the National Executive Director for Ray and Associates. And on my immediate right is Dr. James Davis, one of our associates who hails from Texas, however, has a history in your state as a superintendent. That's all we want to say about us, because this is about the two candidates tonight and you. With that, I would like to ask Dr. Carpenter, Dennis Carpenter, who hails from Georgia, to come to the mic. Well, he has a lapel mic. That's it. And take a couple of minutes to just talk to you about anything you would like to share. Then we're going to launch into your questions, asking them. And he's free to move about since he has a lapel mic. And I appreciate your attendance. I think you'll enjoy the two candidates at the evening.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, well, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I think that you're out for a very important reason. Probably the most important thing that a school board does is select the district superintendent, that person that will outline a vision for improvement for the district for a period of years. So the fact that you're out in support of that process is very important. I would also like to say that you should be very, very proud of your school board and the school district in terms of the process that they've outlined and set forth. Very, very professional and done in a top-notch fashion. If I'm a member of this community, I'm very, very proud of my school board and the district in terms of the way they outlined this process, kept it very, very professional and that type of thing. Let's give them a round of applause. Is it Miss Bradley? Thank you for hosting us today. I've already had a chance to meet Miss Bradley. She's principal here at Galloway, and she's done a fine job of hosting us here today. And she's also done a good job of getting her staff out. Where's all that staff from Galloway? I've seen them. They're here. So very, very important. If you're any member of the Jackson Public School System, just raise your hand. Very, very good. The fact that this many individuals from the district is concerned about their next superintendent is not unimportant. That tells me that there's, number one, there's interest. That tells me that there's a sense of urgency or importance surrounding this decision. So you're here. And I'm here, Dennis Carpenter. I have with me my wife. She's there in the back, Dr. LaQuanta Carpenter. And she looks like a little baby. We have to find out. No. That's how 8-month-old son landed. So that's landing back there. I've told your Board of Education that I hope when this process concludes that I'm the number one educational leader in this process. But I hate to say that I'm the number 2 educational leader in my family. I think LaQuanta is the better of the two. She's a high school principal that serves a school of about 2,000 students, and they were just named an AP honor school. And every time I look around, I think she's been named to the board of directors for ASCD. So she's a lot better educator than I am. But I hope I'm the best in this process. Okay. Dennis Carter, why are you here? Why are you in Jackson, Mississippi? I've been moving around the room a little bit today, and some people want to know, well, is your wife from here? Do you have family here? Is that type of a connection there to bring you to Jackson, Mississippi? I'm not here because of any affiliation or any wife or any relative or getting closer to family. That's not my reason. I'm here because there was an opportunity, and I think I have a skill set that aligns itself with what the needs are here in Jackson. I know Bill and some others from Red Associates, when the vacancy came open here in Jackson, we looked at it. We looked at the characteristics that the district and its committee had outlined for its next superintendent. And in looking at those characteristics and doing a little bit of research about the district, I viewed my skill set as a fit in terms of what some of the needs are here in the system if we're going to move the needle forward. We all know that we face some challenges with accreditation. We know that. We know that we're facing some challenges maybe with the loss of athletics. We know that. We know that over half of our schools aren't labeled successful or above in the state accountability system. We know these things. So how do we fix them? We would be fooling ourselves if we did not say that it starts with the teacher in the classroom. That's where it begins. But it also has to do with leadership and a vision for leadership and a vision for moving this district forward. And I think I can provide such a vision that centers on increased student achievement and increased instructional effectiveness that might allow the district to move the needle. If I come in here tonight and tell you that this will be done in the next year or the next 2 years, don't believe me, number one, and be leery of anyone who tells you they can do it that fast. There are no silver bullets. There are no silver bullets in this big vision. But I think that if we focus, if we find a common instructional focus, if we support each other, if we implement with fidelity, I'm sure that we can make some improvement, and in the next 3 to 5 years, we're on our way. Probably becoming the school district that we all can be proud of, and it's not about us. If it were about me, I'm very comfortable. I have a home, I have a wife, I have family in close proximity, we're comfortable. If it were about me, I would just stay there where I am in Newton County if it were all about me. But we have 30,000 young people in Jackson that would depend on us to chart a future for them. And I think that's very, very important. And it's one of the ultimate things that we do as educators that we cannot look at or take lightly. So that's why I'm here, and that's kind of who I am. You've had an opportunity to read my bio. I won't bore you with that kind of stuff. But I will say that I'm an instructional leader first. I will say that it's about the data. I will say that it's about what's in the best interest of students. I will say that we have to align the prescribed, the taught, and the tested curriculum. And I hear a lot of things, even since I've been here. It seems like there are a lot of persons, whether they be internal or external, that have lots of good things. They're not bad things that they want to do with our students here in Jackson. And that's fine. We're going to embrace community involvement and community support. But those things that get us away from the aligned, the taught, the prescribed, and the tested curriculum, anytime we let a lot of air in there, we stand to see some of the results that we're seeing in the school system. So we got to focus. I think it begins here with focus, and that's what I hope I can provide to the school system, is some instructional focus by which we can see some measurable gains for children and increase their life prospects. So that's kind of who I am. I don't want to waste your time talking more about me. You've read about it, we've heard that. Let's get to the questions, Bill.
All right. There's been much discussion about the negative image of the JPS. Some true and some not. What do you propose to do to improve the image of our school district?
I met Ms. Piggy today. Her last name escapes me today, but she's in our PR department. My wife also met another gentleman who works in our PR department. And if I'm named your next superintendent, they better be ready to hit the ground running. I think too often school districts allow other individuals to tell their story for them, and we don't tell our own story as a school system, or we're kind of shy when it comes to being transparent about our opportunities and our challenges. And I think when we do that, there's some negative impressions that can be formed that we could probably squash a little bit or, kind of allow to go away if we were upfront and forthcoming with information about our system and where we are and what our challenges are and what our successes are. And everywhere there's a challenge, there should be some strategies that we're ready to talk about, we're employed to deal with those challenges. And if we don't tell that story, then we stand to be a person or a group or an organization that's having that story told for us, and we're not talking about what we're doing So we're going to be telling our story. I've been in a few places here in the community during my last 2 visits. And the only place I've seen school system material or just material resources talking about our district has been in the school district. I think that if we're telling our own story, there should be some fast facts about JPS in every business. There should be some fast facts about JPS in every organization's office and that type of thing. So again, we give that story out, telling people who we are, what we're about, where we are, where are our challenges, and where are we going, and the steps we're going to take to get there. So that's not unimportant. So to answer that question, I guess I'll say Public Relations Department, get ready, because we have to tell our own story.
Thank you. Please give us your description of a visionary leader. Can you give us an example how you have served as a visionary leader in a challenging situation?
What is a visionary leader? A visionary leader is one who can get an organization to embrace not their current situation, but their future story. I like to call it a future story. What we want to be about. And getting people to kind of gravitate around a future story. So with that being said, I think that there is a story that's being told in Jackson that's too embedded in the present. And what we need to be able to do is talk about where we want this district to go and what's our future. Not only talk about what that future is, but how are we going to get there. So a visionary leader is one who can help develop that future story based on data, get people to gravitate around that future story, and then work toward that end. I will say that I've worked in some challenging situations. One being my current situation. One being a situation where I was responsible for a house of students as an assistant principal of a 1,600 student elementary school. So we worked in some difficult situations. And we've developed some programs, we've developed some strategies, we've equipped teachers with tools via effective, focused professional development in which we've been able to see some success. Just in the last couple of years, we were projected to have 19 of our 23 schools not made adequate yearly progress. And because of a focus on research-based instructional strategies, building background knowledge, technology integration, we were able to cut that number down to 6 not making progress. And guess what? We have given intense assistance to those 6, and we're confident that they're going to make progress in the coming year. Again, it takes hard work, it takes a focus, and it takes a group of people that are willing to rally around that focus.
Again, thank you. This next question was repeated several times, so I know it's important to the attendees tonight. How do you plan to address the dropout crisis?
How will I address the dropout crisis? I think that we have some very serious issues related to our dropout rate, just looking at the data. Your students here in Jackson, hopefully our students here in Jackson, drop out at a rate of about 10% higher than their peers around the state, based on the State Department of Education's data coming out of the state of Mississippi. So in looking at that data, how do we address said problem? I talked to a group of community stakeholders earlier today, and they're very concerned about this same exact question. And I guess my answer is, I need to know a little bit more about what's already going on to address the dropout rate. In those systems, and the research is clear, those systems that drop the ball in terms of putting the lid on the dropout rate, they do it because they don't focus on it until a child is in 9th grade. When a child is in 9th grade, it's time to start worrying about whether or not they're going to drop out. You've already lost the battle if they're going to drop out. They're just waiting on a certain date and a certain age so that they can execute the dropout. So with that being said, in grades 3 and 4, as early as 3 and 4, we need to be starting looking at linking students either to a career or a college readiness. And if we can start making that link early, keeping that plan of action and what it takes to get there in front of a child, and it's almost like an individual battle by child within a school. I think that we can make some headway in terms of the graduation rate or improving the dropout rate. The other piece related to that is literacy. I'm looking at English language arts scores, grades 3 through 8, and I've been mulling over them and mulling over them. And the majority of your students, in most cases, more than 50%, are scoring at either the minimum or in the basic category in English language arts, and that's in your early grades. If that's going on, it's probably going to create the dropout rate that you're seeing right now. So if we don't get a handle on this English language arts issue, we're going to struggle in terms of dropout rate. And we got to get a handle on it in the early grades. So that's kind of where I am in terms of dropout rate. Student interest, linking them to a career, college readiness, and dealing with this English language arts literacy issue in the early grade. It's not an overnight fix, it's not a quick fix, but it's something that we can work on and start working on pretty immediately.
Next question. What experience have you had with developing and implementing teacher and administrator evaluation protocols that are tied to student performance?
That's a very good question. We just went through that process in our district 2 years ago. And our principals came along with a lot of screaming and yelling and national teeth, but they came along. We had the old state instrument, and that instrument just talks about a summative assessment and did the principal do this to manage the building, he or she follow through on that, and then do this. And we tied it more to what I like to call instructional leadership. Meaning we looked at the data in your building for the previous year or the previous 2 years. And the principal in a goal-setting conference has set goals for their school's performance for the upcoming school year. And in that goal setting, there's a point value for each goal. And then during the annual evaluation, that principal is coming in, and it's kind of what we like to call a presentation or a portfolio-based evaluation. They're coming in with a notebook. They're coming in with a PowerPoint presentation. Not only are they going on their data for the current year, but they're telling us that we really had to change our evaluation cycle as well. We used to do it in the spring, but in order to get all the data back, we had to move the evaluation back to the fall to make sure that all of our data was back. I know Mississippi's probably quicker than Georgia, but Georgia didn't get that data back to us until sometime late summer. So instead of evaluating principals in the spring, we started doing it in the fall. And in doing so, that principal had to come in and say, here's where my school was, here was my goal, did I meet it, did I not meet it? It's not made up. There are clear point values there. The majority of the points are in 2 categories. That is improvement performance based on student data, and that's following through on implementing the district's professional development focus. And our district is implement professional learning communities that are high functioning via the research of the core. The other thing that you have there is the piece related to increased teacher effectiveness via research-based instruction strategies, building background knowledge, and technology integration. And we gave the principals, every principal's meeting. I think one researcher said that we spend too much time in administrative meetings focusing on administrative. So with that being said, we started to focus our attention now more so on best practices in terms of being an instructional leader in your building and what effective teaching should look like in your building. We began to focus our energies there. And in doing so, those principals have to show during their evaluation how I came back and re-delivered that professional learning in my building and how was it implemented with fidelity. And with that being said, we've seen some growth in our principals. They're moving from managerial principals, some of them, to instructional leaders. Some of them are already instructional leaders, and they're eating this stuff up. So that's what we got to know. That's what we got to know if we're going to improve our students. So I would be very, very interested in looking at the principal evaluation system, having some good conversation with our principals and with our school board about it. And then I looked at your teacher evaluation system as well. And right now, I don't see any glaring gaps there.
Dr. Carpenter, we need to address your water bottle anytime we're just skipping on that side. Okay. This is an interesting question. What kind of leadership do you think you can bring to Jackson that we haven't already experienced? We're going to have a little fun.
All right, well, here it goes. What kind of leadership do you bring to Jackson that Jackson has not already experienced? Probably cannot bring anything to Jackson that Jackson has not already experienced. But what I will say is leadership has to do with consistency. So if you employ what you should employ consistently, and if you do what's best for children all the time, even in the midst of some political winds that might blow left and they might blow right, then I think you stand a better chance of, number one, showing the district that you'll be consistent, and number two, generating some gains for young people. So with that being said, in me, I'll just tell you a little bit about my leadership style. It's very collaborative. I don't believe in making decisions in isolation, but I'll also tell you that it's very data-driven. Around me, I want the best people. I want the best people at the cabinet level, whether they're from Jackson and currently here in our district in another position, or whether they're from outside the district. If we're going to improve student achievement, it can't be about a hiring service or that kind of thing. It's got to be the best person in the job, every time we hire. I think that's very, very important. Once we do that, I think you provide a focus and you let good people do their work with some set benchmarks or some set accountability for letting them do their work. So with that being said, that's what you'll see from me from an instructional leadership standpoint. You'll find one that will model. If I talk about professional learning communities, you're going to see me model. If I tell a principal they need to be conducting a book study for greater learning in their school, guess what? You'll see me modeling in the principal's meeting. So that's very, very important to me. You ask people to do things that you'll do yourself. And at the end of the day, all of us should be servant leaders for the children of Jackson. At the end of the day, that should be where we are. And if we're in it for another reason, it'll tell us. It'll tell us over time. And when it tells us, then we got to work with that.
What is your perspective of addressing and improving parental involvement? It includes and reducing dropout, but let's take the first part of it. What's your perspective on addressing and improving parental involvement?
Parental involvement. I have not been in a place in my educational career that the community or the district or the administrators or teachers did not want greater parental involvement. You'll hear it everywhere you go. Increase parental involvement. Increase parental involvement. And I would argue that we have pretty good parental involvement already if we look at it in terms of two categories. There's parental involvement for support. And when I say parental involvement for support, I mean parents coming out to this type of an event. I mean parents coming out to sporting events. Those events in which their children are involved in. I think communities do a very good job of that. But what I find in the teacher ranks or the administrative ranks is they want parental involvement for instruction. I want parents to help me instruct their child. And it took you 4 years to learn how to do it. And you're still doing professional learning during the process to get better. So I think that we kind of hold our parents to a standard that we maybe don't even hold ourselves to in terms of wanting their involvement for their children's education. So with that being said, if we're going to want that parental involvement for instruction, then we need to provide those opportunities, whether they be parent university or whether they be parents coming in and sharing with them how we go about addressing different curriculum matters. So we got to provide the same level of training for parents for instruction if we're going to want that of them. Parental involvement is something that's always evolving. You always want it better. It's never where you want it. When my tenure is up, whether it be 20 years from now or 25 years from now, it won't be where we want it. But what I will say is that we're going to give parents the tools that they need to help us if they are here. And we're never going to give up on them. The districts who struggle, they give up on parental involvement. Well, just not going to do that anymore because parents won't come anyway. I'm not going to hold that event as a principal. I only have 10 people. Do it for the team. Because it's for the children. And then if you do it for the 10, and if it's a quality, they may go back and help you spread the word, and next time the 10 is 20. So don't give up on the parental involvement component. That's when we lose the battle and give up on it.
All right. This is kind of your speaking to your entry plan, perhaps. It says, what would you do for the first 100 days?
What would I do for the first 100 days? The Board of Education got a draft today of what I propose as a draft entry plan. And if I'm fortunate enough to be named the next superintendent, it kind of outlines my activities by month for about the next 90 to 120 days. And what it involves is a lot of conversation with a lot of people, a lot of looking, a lot of listening, a lot of observing, meeting with various groups, board members individually, teacher groups, groups of administrators, maybe our elementary principals, given that we have over 30, maybe 4 or 5 groups. But from our external stakeholder standpoint, the purpose is just to give their perceptions of our school system. And what I want to do is kind of do a statistical analysis. I want to look at those things that keep coming up. Because grandma used to say, when there's smoke, there's fire. So if I'm talking to 100 people and 45 of them mention gangs in schools, I'm just putting it out there as something that could be the case, then we probably need to look at it. If 50 people, like you just mentioned, the redundancy about the dropout rate, it's serious business. We need to be looking at it. And my guess is those conversations will feel the same. So lots of perception down from the outside. Internal stakeholders, meaning my central office staff, meaning my principals and others that we get a chance to meet with, and I will meet with, it's going to be a little bit more of a perception gap. You're going to have to bring me the hard numbers. Again, I'm that data-driven leader that I've talked to you about. So if you're going to come in and tell me about your problems and what's going on in your perceptions in the school, back it up with your data. Back it up with your data. You will have to back it up with your data. Because I'm not going to make a decision based on anything else. So with that being said, we're going to have those data-driven leaders that are bringing in information in their area of responsibility. If you're at the district level, what's the impact of what you're doing? I want to know impact. I want to know barriers to your success. Are we doing something because we've always done it, or are we seeing results? So we're going to talk about impact, and that's very, very important. When you're in a climate of declining revenues, it's very, very important that we not just do things because we've always done them. We got to start picking and choosing. What are we going to start? What are we going to start? What are we going to amend? Not just because of revenue, but when a person like Dr. Carpenter is trying to develop a laser-like focus, we're going to talk about what we start, and what we amend. It's very, very important. So lots of meetings with people over the course of the first 90 to 120 days, lots of data gathering, and ultimately it'll end probably in the month of November, no later than December, with a formal presentation by yours truly to the school board. And in that presentation, I'll talk about the big overarching ideas that I've heard. I'll talk about the recommendations, both long-term and short-term, in terms of addressing some of those issues that are prevalent in the school system. And then we're going to get to the nuts and bolts about some of those things that I've heard it so much, it needs an immediate fix. And if it needs an immediate fix, we're going to talk about those things that might need an immediate fix. But maybe 4 to 6 months down the road, that's kind of what that plan might look like, will look like.
What role do you see after-school programs play, and how do you envision working with after-school programs to enhance educational opportunities for children?
Listen to this. Quality after-school programs are indispensable in a community that looks like Jackson. Quality. I didn't just put that word in there. Quality after-school programs are indispensable in a community that looks like Jackson, given the demographic. With that being said, we're going to be assessing and evaluating the quality of those programs that already exist. And what I would like to see in our after-school program is some kind of a consistency. Not just this school has got a chess club, and they believe that chess club is going to garner some results. There's some opportunity for chess club, but it's not our after-school instructional program. In our after-school program, whether they be paraprofessionals, whether they be teachers, you're going to teach and you're going to receive that same training that our teachers receive relative to research-based instructional strategies. We don't need to have kids in an after-school program and not use those same high-yield strategies that I'm going to expect we use in the classroom. Because if not, we're wasting time. I've seen some very good after-school programs over the course of my career, and I've seen some that were babysitting services. And we got to look at that. And I don't know the quality of the programs, but trust me, my 90-day plan, we'll find out the quality of the programs and look for those characteristics. What are the characteristics we want to see spread across every after-school program? What do we want them to look like? Those that are district supported.
You certainly have touched on this in some of your other questions, but specifically this question asks, what are your thoughts on professional development training for administrators and their staff?
Professional development, it's probably one of the most important things that we can do in our school system if we're going to improve our results. Let me say this about professional development. I think there has to be a district focus in terms of professional development that's embedded in the research and what the research tells us that works. I think there has to be an expectation that what we teach in the professional development program here in our district is implemented in the buildings with fidelity. But now I'm smart enough to know that Rain could be a little different than Galloway, and Galloway is a little bit different than Callaway High School, and Collins is a little bit different, and Forest Hill is a little bit different. I'm smart enough to know that. So with that being said, that district focus has to be